Call to order the meeting. We'll have introduction. You want us introductions today since we have a new intern with us?
Should I come up to the camera?
It's up to you.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Leo Speltz, supervisor from District 1 and chair. So,
Cool.
Andy?
Andy Cronenbush, supervisor from District 5.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Rocam. District 3, I think.
Yes, you're right.
Look at your book, he'll tell you.
Yeah. I'm just trying to be funny.
Jerry?
I'm Jerry Miller. I'm supervisor from Area 4.
Cool. Nice to meet you. Well,
Pleasure to meet you.
yeah. I am Michael Ellman. I am the Conservation Corps apprentice for this summer. I'm from Rochester, Minnesota. I drive here from Rochester every day to work. And I've been enjoying my time as an apprentice here so far. I've been doing some aquatic invasive species monitoring. I've been going out with Amanda on CRP renewals. I've been checking the Kretemacher manure pit. Last couple days I've been going out with another person to learn about stream monitoring for like water quality testing and stuff.
Who was that other person?
Nikki Shaw.
Our last year's
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Conservation Corps.
Okay.
Yeah. And besides that, just helping around the office and doing whatever needs to be done. So yeah.
Glad to have you aboard.
Yeah, thank you. All right, well,
Okay.
I should probably get going.
Yep, he's got
Yeah.
training this morning, so.
Yep.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you too.
Okay, is there any public comments to anybody bring to the meeting today? Does anybody have any public comments? Does anybody have any public comments to bring to the meeting today? If not, we'll move on to the agenda. Be approved.
I'll move approval of the agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries for the agenda. Consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries for the consent agenda. We have an attachment for the River Watershed 1 plan. Everybody have that?
That's the great one.
Looks like this.
So it's treasurer's report. Look over.
Get it there, that gray one. There we go.
So you got the three tables, the one showing you the bank account, and the next two showing each grant, what the dollar amounts are, balances, everything in those two grants. The 2020-2021 grant is the new one, and we haven't spent anything out of that until possibly your actions today. We would spend some of it. The disbursements on the bottom of both of those grant tables are assuming actions today.
We had 50,000 left from the 19. Is that just transferred to the 20?
That's actually 50,000 just of the first half. But if you remember the grants, we get the first 50%. When we spend the first 50, then we get the next 40. So it's actually only 50,000 left of the first half of that grant.
That entire grant is spoken for already though, isn't
Yep,
it?
yep. And actually, that's one of the things I was going to talk about later is we're only at not quite 50% of the grant being spent, but almost all of the cost share has been encumbered, and projects are in the process or scheduled to be done.
No,
They just
that-
haven't been completed yet.
Just the first half or the whole grant?
As far as the encumbering
Yes,
for the whole grant.
okay.
Yep. So we just need approval of the treasurer's report. If you have any other questions, we can answer.
That one has to be completely depleted before we start the second one, or?
Nope.
Okay, because that was my question, that if you have one that, the last project is bigger than the balance, then you can go into the other one and start using that.
Yep.
Okay,
And actually, that's what we're doing.
okay.
I'll move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve the treasurer's report. So I have the payables for the Root River.
So if you look at the first page, or the second page, first page behind the agenda, that, I guess it's on the back of that, shows the bills payable for this period, and it'd be $69,860.62. It's payments to Dodge SWCD, Fillmore SWCD, Root River SWCD, Winona County SWCD, and Winona County, as shown in the table there. And it's for a combination of technical assistance, ag practices, project development, and administration. And when you were asking if if something's depleted, you can go to the next grant. That's actually what we are doing right now with the with our Winona SWCD's administrative dollars. Those have been used up, so we're actually going to roll into the next grant for some of those costs.
On here, what's the difference between Winona County SWCD and Winona County?
Winona County, Sheila's working with
Oh,
St. Mary's University,
Geospatial Services.
oh, okay.
doing some modeling and stuff on the watersheds for us. So we need approval on those.
$6,000 grant?
What's that?
Wasn't that a $6,000 price tag
For,
for that with St. Mary's?
no, actually their estimate was 20,000.
Oh,
But in this grant, we only had a certain amount of money, so she has an agreement with them for that. And now with the new grant, she's working on an agreement for the rest of the money.
So most of that would be passed through to them.
Yep.
I'll move approval of these disbursements.
second.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the, is that the $6,000 payable to St. Mary's?
Nope. If you look at the last page of that packet, there's two bills payable, and one of them is for cost share for a project in Root River SWCD, and the other one is for that carryover administrative expenses for Winona SWCD. When we put together that first grant, we had no idea what administrative costs were gonna be, what kind of workload we were gonna have, so we did our best estimate and we were short. The second grant, we increased that quite a bit. One, because we knew we were running short, and two, it's a lot more complex and a lot more money to try and manage all the different projects and stuff through it.
I'll move approval of those disbursements on the new grant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries for the payables.
Could I just give a quick update too?
Okay?
There's gonna be a planning work group meeting next Monday to look at, where we're sitting with these grants and if we need to shift things around, stuff like that. And we'll probably be recommending another amendment to the Exhibit A where all the money is distributed. We'll probably be looking at an amendment for that. And then whatever we recommend, we'll take to the policy committee on the following Monday, June 22nd. So and part of the policy committee, they need to approve payments also. So the payments that you approve here, we have to wait and can't send them out until after the policy committee on the 22nd.
Okay, that is for the Red River.
Yep.
Next, we can move on to the grants, agreements, and contracts. Is that this page?
Yep. So this long page. So the side with the photos on it, down in the corner.
That's not the right
Huh?
one. That's not the right one. We don't have the right one, you do.
Oh, really?
Shoot. Oh, wait, I have the wrong one, you guys have the right one, never mind, you're good.
You have one on the floor there too,
Oh,
on the other side.
yeah, I got one, never mind, go ahead.
So we have a couple things here. The Peshon grade stabilization structures, there's actually two of them. They came in a little bit over cost, and so what we're looking for is a amendment to increase the cost, or cost share dollars. And if you look at the second yellow line down in the table, it says amendment, and if you read across, it shows a new dollar amount of $7,833.63. That doesn't quite get them up to 75%, but it's the closest we could get. And basically there are two structures. The pipe installation on them was a little more expensive than we had anticipated, and then we had some weather we had to work around that slowed the project down and had to clean up between rains and stuff like that. So the first thing we were looking for was an amendment to increase the cost share dollars. Then we would need approval of the
No,
payment.
we approve them all at once.
Yep. That's what I was,
Okay.
then we would have approval of a payment of that $78.33.63 for that project. The next one down is the William and Jessica Miller, the Oriental Bittersweet. We're just looking for a contract extension. They need more time. The contractor needs more time to get the project done, so we're looking at moving it from June 30th to September 30th. And what we've been doing the last few months anyway, I think, has been just presenting them all, and then if everything looks good, just one motion to approve it all. Unless you want to pull something out separate.
I move approval of the entire sheet.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor of the motion to approve the motion that was brought up?
Aye.
Aye.
Second, opposed? Motion carries.
Be number two.
Now,
That was all under number one.
okay, number two is cost share assistant contracts for cover crops.
We had, and this is just an update, actually that's on the back side of this, of that long page. The cover crop cost share is required to be a 3-year contract, and they have to meet certain criteria for it. So part of the contract says if they don't meet that, the contract's automatically terminated. So we have 4 of them that we tried our best to get things done, but weren't able to do them. A couple of them were not planted, and a couple of them didn't meet the standards. They went ahead and planted without the adequate seed mix on them, and they had been advised beforehand and stuff, and they just wanted to go ahead with what they had, so. Those 4 contracts that have the red in front of them have been terminated. And the ones that, the problem what we have is, like I said, they're 3-year contracts. Most of our grants are only for 3 or 4 years, so if they don't get that first year in right away, we can't just push them back for a later year because the grant is gone then.
Can they apply for a new contract?
They could. It, we'll see if that happens. It's kind of, if they don't want to follow standards or if they're not able to do it 1 year, then it's kind of questionable.
Most likely
if they
they're
do.
not.
Some new guy will get the contract ahead of them.
Probably, but you
I
never
mean,
know.
that's the way I would do it.
Yeah,
Because that-
you have to
that
look at the
chance to get
circumstances, but most likely that's the way it would go. So that was just an update.
Okay. Soil and water cost share assisted contracts.
The Robert Kreidemacher, the feedlot project up by Altura, the project's going along, actually going really good right now, despite some of these rains we've had. But it's not gonna be done by June 30th, so we're looking at an extension to September 30th, 2020.
How come it's not gonna be done?
They aren't done with the first pit and they have a second pit to do yet.
Pretty much because of last year, I would
Yeah,
assume. or-
last year
Yeah,
just,
just
they were gonna
destroyed everything.
get everything done by fall
Is
and
that,
didn't even get close.
Pearson doing the
Contractors
work?
to put the liner in too.
No,
Waiting on
I don't remember, who's doing the earthwork?
them.
It wasn't Pearson, no.
Because we had so much dry weather there, I thought they'd be doing, moving right along.
Well, they got a lot done. They got the first pit, they have, probably 3/4 of the concrete in.
They got the floor done, they got, half of the sidewalls done and the ramp done,
Yeah.
so.
I move us extending that contract until September 30th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Anybody opposed? Motion carries. I'm kind of disappointed on that because that project's been going now for how many years? Years
Yep.
like. And
They
seems like,
waited for over a day, well,
Over a
they
day.
scheduled concrete to come, and the concrete people didn't come till like 3 o'clock,
hmm,
cause they've scheduled so many people out or whatever, and
Yeah.
they waited, the whole crew was sitting there waiting almost a whole day, waiting for concrete.
And when it rains, it's not like building a pond or a waterway. If
Yeah.
the things dry up, you're good to go. With a pit like this, you might have to pump water.
Yeah.
You might have to clean up anything that washed in and then replace it with compacted
that they would
sand
have,
and things like that.
barriers so the water wouldn't get in there. I mean, yeah.
They do. They have diversion above and things like that
Yeah.
to keep the water out, but, that's a large pit and even the water that comes in within the walls of it.
You 3-4 inches of rain, you still gotta get rid of it all.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Is that it on the that?
Yep.
Then we have the Goodhue County Soil and Water Conservation District update.
And this again is just another update. We have the 319 feedlot grant agreement with Goodhue Soil and Water Conservation District. That's one that they took over from the Southeast Water Resources Board. As time goes on, they're seeing who is spending money and who's not, who doesn't need it. And there's a number of SWCDs that weren't using it, so they're reallocating a bunch of the funds. So we've got a increase of $23,000 in cost share and $14,000 in technical assistance. So we got a pretty good bump in the funding for these the smaller feedlot projects. And this is money that can only be 50% cost share, not to exceed $15,000. So that would cover, we have 44,000, so that basically cover 3 projects.
Do you have some people in line to possibly use that for, or?
We have one that hopefully will be doing a contract in the next month or so, and there's a couple others that Amanda's been talking to, and she's also talks to Carly a lot at the county to see if there's any new people coming in that need something done.
So that expires on August 31st?
Of 21.
2021.
Oh, 2020, okay.
Yep. And these are smaller fixes, so it's
Yeah.
not like you're working with a big
Well,
pit.
there's so many livestock operations that are quitting that are smaller, so it's in less and less demand all the time.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting in the next few years, how many of these projects we do.
Okay. Whitewater Joint Powers Board. Drinking water protection.
We're looking at a sub-agreement with Whitewater Joint Powers Board to do some more cover crop cost share in certain parts of the watershed, of the Whitewater watershed. Actually, in our county, it comes to quite a bit of the watershed. Probably getting 3/4 of the
Right.
watershed in our county.
Yep.
Mainly the area up by the wildlife management area and stuff. That's about the only area that's not eligible for the cover crop cost share. So what we would do is we would do the technical assistance. We would write the cost share contracts, but the payments would come through the Joint Powers Board. So we're looking at, it'd be $5,000 in technical assistance with additional $13,500 available to all 3 Winona, Wabasha, and Homestead SWCDs, depending on who gets more of the cost share contracts, the cover crop cost share.
So what part of the county is that, be the northern part of our county?
It'd be,
Whitewater portion.
yeah, the Whitewater starts right outside the building here and goes west to St. Charles, and it would go all the way, it'd include Altura, most or half of Oak Ridge, I guess, anything that goes that direction, Oak Ridge. But there's some sub-watersheds that weren't included because they don't have enough ag land. And this is a MPCA grant, and there's certain requirements that you have to fit to use the money in those, for those
So
priorities.
that would exclude the Whitewater Township then?
I think
Is the
most of Whitewater is excluded, but I think there's a,
That's because they were not included in the township testing program.
Yep.
So the way I wrote the grant is for the townships that happen to have, at that first round of the township testing program, if they had a high number of wells that exceeded the drinking water standard, they were put in a high priority area. So those townships that are within the Whitewater boundary, and there's 5 of those townships in Winona County, they would be eligible for cover crop incentives. Olmsted County has 2 high priority townships and then 4 secondary tier townships. Wabasha has 2 townships, so.
so I think it's everybody but Whitewater and Mount
Right.
Vernon
Yeah.
in the Whitewater area.
I got a question. With the Whitewater there, most of it being our land,
Mhm.
how do the wells test in that area where there's less agriculture, basically?
Think any different?
They weren't part of our nitrate, the testing we did a few years ago. They weren't part of it because that was also through the state, and they didn't prioritize them because there wasn't enough ag land, because there's so much
Yeah.
So I mean,
state
it'd be
land
interesting
there.
to see. You know.
Yeah,
And that depends how deep the wells are, you know, it's very
Yeah.
locally.
So what, I don't understand, what difference has the ag land got to do with it? In other words, you're saying that the ag land is the culprit that's causing the nitrates, or isn't there other factors, or?
Oh, yeah.
there are, but the funding that we had for that test was to, and that's why they actually threw out a bunch of townships in the second round, is they want to see specifically what's from ag. So when they got all those results, then they went and looked, and if it was just a bad well, then they threw those out because it wasn't caused by the ag, it was caused by a bad well. Things like that, they went through and narrowed it down even further. What we've been trying to do with most of our stuff is use the first results, because we're more concerned where the bad water is, not what's causing it. We're concerned with where the bad water is and doing whatever we can to improve the water.
To answer your question, Neil, the reason I asked that question is because when I go to these ball meetings, I kind of feel, and I don't know what Daryl's opinion is,
Yep.
that agriculture is to blame for all
Sure,
this.
sure.
That's why I asked the question, well, you don't have much agriculture. And I suppose they don't test the wells because of what you said, but I mean, was there anybody, when the county did it here, that brung it in from that area that you could use their sample results?
If they bring anything that we've done, when we do, every couple of years, we'll do
Yeah.
testing. Those are all private, so we don't keep track of that. But I don't know. Amanda's the one that usually is in charge of it. I don't remember, though, getting many tests from up that part of the county.
I've tested my well every year, and I live right on the border between Whitewater and
Trout,
Mount Vernon there, right?
yeah.
And it's an old well. It was built, I don't know, many, many years ago. And it's always tested in the low, around 5 for nitrates, But, so
A
that,
lot of it has to do with soil types.
yeah, that's the thing. If you got a sandy soil, everything goes right through.
Yeah. That's what Utica Township has. They have a fair amount of sandy soil.
Sure.
You know,
Sandy soil and sinkholes.
good sinkholes.
Yep.
But Andy, getting to your question, when I wrote the grant application, one of the criteria that you would get extra points for, that your proposal would garner more points, is if you used, referenced some kind of study, and they specifically mentioned in the RFP township testing program. So that's why I used the township testing program and referenced it in the grant, was because I would get more points for it. And I decided to go with the first round of the testing program because, like Daryl was referencing, I don't care that during the second round that they threw out a bunch of wells, because those are still wells that had high nitrates that we still wanted to address through this grant. So I specifically went with the first round of the township testing as my criteria for identifying the high priority area. So for better or for worse, I was just trying to get more cover crops on the ground.
I mean,
And her grant isn't just for cover crops. That's just what our part is. She's doing other stuff
yeah.
It's
also.
also for.
So my question with all the meetings I go to is, like I say, I feel that agriculture is being blamed. How much of this is natural,
Yeah.
from the decaying of the woods, forestry. So it'd be interesting to see where you got heavy agriculture, where, you got national parks and stuff, what their water tests,
Right,
and even small parks like
right,
Whitewater versus,
right.
major
And the-
parks like
Yeah, and the other
Yellowstone
part
and
of my
stuff like
grant
that.
was trying to upgrade septic systems for low-income homeowners. So I've got a pot of money for those, because that's another source, is septic systems that are not working properly can really mess up your drinking water. So those are the two things that I was focused on in this grant application. So acknowledging that there's other sources, and you talk about the natural background with nitrates. Generally, of course, this is generals, everything's different at each location, but about, you know, they say about 3 milligrams per liter, anything about that range is natural nitrate, anything above that, there's something else contributing to those nitrates. What that something else is, could be various.
Okay.
I'll move approval of the agreement, sub-agreement with Whitewater.
A second. It.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve. Next, we'll talk about the lease for the vehicle, replace a 2008 Chevy truck.
Nope. It's the Jeep Cherokee. The number 2 on that list.
We'll replace the Jeep. You're not selling the pickup.
So if you got that blue sheet, that's the information that we received, went to Lewiston Auto, St. Charles, Chrysler Winona, and Sugarloaf Ford. And this is the information we've come up with. We got prices on Jeep Cherokees, although they really don't meet our needs. The one we have right now is too small to meet the needs we have. But we do have prices on that. We got prices on a Chevy Blazer, Grand Cherokee, a Ford Expedition, and I didn't get the numbers, but they told me what the Tahoe numbers were, and the Expedition and Tahoe are just way too expensive. I did ask Sugarloaf Ford I went there asking about the Explorer, but they didn't recommend that for off-road. I'm not sure why, but they didn't recommend that for off-road. And then I put pickup on there, if all else fails. A pickup actually would be better than the Cherokee we have right now. The big thing is if things keep getting canceled and we don't have fairs, or we don't have all these other outings that especially Amanda's been taking our booth to, if those keep getting canceled, then the need for that storage goes down in a hurry.
We have to assume it's gonna come back, though.
I assume it's gonna come back, it's just a question of how long.
Yeah.
So what are your feelings about your Jeep Cherokee expiring? That's what we have now.
Yep.
And you were had to go to a Grand Cherokee.
The best options that I see are either the Blazer or the Grand Cherokee. We did, when we went to Chrysler Winona, they did give us prices on a lower model than St. Charles had. I gave St. Charles the option of giving us prices on that lower model too, but they never did give me any numbers. So these are a little bit better than what we had last month. Both of those, the Blazer and Cherokee, would handle all of our tables and things like that for taking to the displays around. And actually, I was impressed the Blazer has much better legroom in front and back seat than our Cherokee did.
Well, it looks like the Blazer is the best deal.
And they actually have, when I first went there, they gave me the top numbers. But then when Scott is the guy that really works with municipalities and things like that the most, he offered, they have one that's got 2,700 miles, and they could give us that one too for sale or lease. And it's a little bit cheaper, $20 cheaper per month for a lease.
I'm assuming under Jeep Grand Cherokee, That's supposed to be $410 a month instead of
Oh.
$4,100.
Yeah. Huh. So I think, the question is what type of vehicle you want, and the question between purchase and lease. The 2020 and the draft 2021 budget are calculated for a lease, not a purchase. And if we would have budgeted for a purchase, we would have had to either make some big cuts someplace else or ask for a lot more money. And the other thing, a lease can be billed to all our grants.
Yeah,
It's part of our billing rate, so we can use basically 100% of our budget to pay for it. Where with a purchase, it can only come out of either a county allocation or operating reserves.
It's $433 for that 2,700, but my question is, how does that compare to what we pay now? Now we're paying like $3 something, aren't we?
We're paying $310 right now. I think it's $310, right? $310,
It was
$312.
310 or 311, and then our budget was 455.
No, our budget is 500 for this year. I believe, I could be wrong. But maybe 500 is for next year.
So what do you think?
Well, I'm just looking over, I mean, there is the option of buying out what we got, but then when you start taking and adding the maintenance and the
Yeah, that's
insurance and
the thing.
everything on it, you're probably gonna be up to that same lease payment anyway.
That's one thing that's favor at least in this situation, because we don't have the expense. I mean, you have the tires and stuff, but something major, you at
Yeah.
least should cover that.
And we haven't, I don't think we put in anything on the Jeep, have we? For maintenance at all, other than oil change.
But
And
now it
actually, the
needs,
newer ones, you change every
800.
10,000 miles, so.
Yeah,
But now it needs
Change it
brakes
twice.
or rotors and stuff.
Yep.
so,
But if we turn
Miles
that in,
or-
we don't have to change it, take care of the brakes. We might,
Miles are in the Jeep.
is it 28,000, I believe?
And the brakes are shot. Oh.
What happened is with this, all the meetings getting canceled, I'm not saying this is a good thing, but this is what they said happened, is it sat for a couple months and they got really rusty. And when we started driving it, the rust just tore into the pads.
Oh. That's
so that just proves you should drive your vehicle at least maybe once a week.
More often,
Even
yep.
just to the post office or whatever, but I mean,
Yep,
you let things sit and it goes to hell faster than if you're using it.
Yep.
For lack of better terms.
and we've been using vehicles, but just not that one.
Yeah.
But we've been using it quite a bit the last month or two now.
So the lease expires on this vehicle, so that's the reason.
Yep. It actually expired last month, but they allowed us to do a 1-month extension.
And who's the Chevy Blazer from?
Be Lewis and Auto.
Oh, Blue Soil?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it seems like the lease, we almost are forced to go with the lease because of our payment method. And I guess the Chevy looks the best to me as far as price, the one with the
Yeah, and I favor
2,700 miles on it.
buying it local too. I like that idea.
Yep.
For
It
maintenance.
makes it real easy for us for maintenance and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Having to run to Winona for everything would be another.
There was an option I didn't put on here, I just saw this morning on the egg report, that somebody's coming out with a really nice looking electric pickup. And I didn't even recognize the brand name.
Yeah, but that's gonna be out of your budget, I think.
Tesla.
No, it wasn't Tesla.
Isn't
The
Tesla?
Rochester,
Ford is coming out with one. There's a number of them.
Rochester looking to buy some electric buses, and what are they, like $500,000 a piece?
Well, I'll move we go with the Chevy Blazer on a lease, the one with the 2,700 miles on it.
Second that.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, do we have a problem with the conservation, or we have an update on it?
Well, we have a problem because we were gonna present that at the fair.
Oh, yeah.
So we were just kind of wondering, do you want us, the staff, just to present it to them, or do you want them to come to the July meeting and present it? Or maybe a couple of you go out to the farm and present it, or what you want to do? And before the fair, staff just presented it to them. I think it's has a lot more meaning coming from you guys, so.
Yeah,
I would think we should do it at the next July meeting, and I try to get at least a Winona Post, and if not, the Daily News, for some pictures, you know, in the paper, because
Yep.
that's if you can get one of them to come to the meeting. They're so busy in the morning.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's not gonna work.
So we can invite them, and
Yeah,
if
you
that
can
doesn't
invite 'em.
work, then
Then we
maybe
can go
have a
out
couple
there.
of you guys go.
yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Best if only 2 of you guys go, that way it's not a
I
a
talked to
meeting.
Paul, I talked to him yesterday.
Did you?
I asked Ben, one day we were chopping, and I asked him about, he didn't know nothing about it. So I didn't know. if
Well,
you
I
had
know
said
they
it.
talked to Paul. I don't know if they talked to anybody else or not.
Okay.
I've just been talking with Paul.
Yeah.
So, okay. And then the resolutions for the, convention, or?
So, some of you guys got your email on the resolution meeting, but some didn't because their email was full.
Oh.
Because it bounced back to us. There's gonna be a resolution meeting, or a summary meeting on July 21st from 9 to noon via Zoom. So it's a virtual meeting. They're gonna cover resolutions, shared services, and soil health promotion and implementation are the main topics they're gonna cover at that meeting. So first question is, I'm assuming nobody brought a resolution forward today, so we wouldn't have anything to take to that. Which, my personal opinion is that's probably fine with the way everything is going this year. To start sending resolutions to ask people to change things is probably not a good timing in my opinion, but, so the meeting's July 21st. Like I said, it's a Zoom meeting. If you guys don't have ability to do that at home, we probably could set up a couple things like this in our conference room for 2 or 3 of you. Probably don't want more than 3 in that room, just for the social distancing stuff. But it's a possibility we could set something up for you guys for that.
What time is that meeting gonna be, Darryl?
9 to noon,
9 till noon?
yep.
I got one question. Last year at the annual meeting, there was that funding and that was running out. Didn't they ask that we were supposed to put resolutions together to support that state or federal funding? You remember that? Or were you at that meeting even? I forget I think it was our regular general session, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
At the convention, you mean?
Yeah. It runs out in about 4 or 5 years, but they said we should get started now. That's
Or
why-
they talked about the Clean Water Fund?
Is that the one that ends?
That ends 2032,
32, I believe.
yeah. But it's gonna take a lot of work to get that
Redone.
either redone or replaced
Yeah.
or something. That's where, I think over 50% of our budget comes from the Clean Water Fund.
And if I remember right, I thought they stated that we should start working on that now. And my question is, does that be done by resolution, or is this a state thing that gets to the federal government?
It's actually a constitutional amendment, I believe, so I'm not sure how that,
Okay,
but I think a resolution would maybe get some people talking more.
that would be the only thing that
Just, like I said, this, my just personal opinion is, with the way the economy, everything going on, I don't think anybody should be asking to increase taxes or anything like that on people, so. But that's just my opinion. I'd rather at least wait till next year and see how all this carries through 2020. Then we'd have 11 years instead of 12. If that's the fund you're talking about. I can't think of any others that are.
Yeah, I know it's a few years out that was gonna expire, but they said that we've gotta get started
Yeah.
now to make sure that it doesn't get eliminated. So there's a program in place to replace it, whether they extend it or a different type of program. So,
Okay, we'll move on to the supervisors. I take it that all of them have applied for re-election?
Yep, everybody got filed. Nobody running against anybody.
well, there isn't.
No.
I had somebody come visit me to see if he opposed me or him running against me.
Oh, yeah?
You encourage him to, or?
Actually, I told him, if you really want to make a difference, I says, run for the town board. You know, if you want, you know, do something local.
Well, you say we don't make a difference here?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that in his situation, you know, he wants to get involved in something.
Yep.
And I says, I think personally, you can do more good getting on a town board instead of soil and water. But that's my personal opinion. No, I ain't putting down or saying nothing negative about the soil and water. But I told him he had, you know, he could if he wanted to. That's totally up to him. I wouldn't be mad or nothing at him for doing it.
Well, he can do both.
He could, yeah.
Okay. Aquatic invasive species update. Is there anything to update on?
Yeah, so you guys met Michael, their new apprentice. Michael and Amanda right now are sitting in on some training for AIS. They've been actually able to get out quite a bit this spring already, doing stream evaluations and stuff. And this is what, the 11th of June? They've almost done as many streams this year as they did last year for the whole summer, just because it rained. Whenever it rains, you have to wait at least a couple days before you can go in the stream. And last year, you'd get that break, but then it'd rain again. Then, so it just was very hard for them to get in the stream. So they're getting a lot more done this year already. And if the weather holds up the way it's been, they should get a lot done this summer. So they finished Bear Creek, almost done with Rolling Stone Creek, and then they'll be going to Garvin Brook next.
Okay. Buffer law.
So of the non-compliant, we're down to 2 parcels that are still non-compliant, and hoping that those 2 will be taken care of this summer. One of them's actually working with the DNR to do some stream restorations and to help stabilize their stream banks so they don't keep moving on them. And then when that project is done, they'll put the fence out at the 50 feet.
Where is that one, Darryl?
That's down in Big Trout, which is Pickwick Valley.
Okay.
The other one, they're working on getting it in compliance. It's just they're not there yet. The compliance monitoring from last fall, we had about, I think it was 9 or 10 of them, something like that. And after looking closer, 2 of them that we thought were in question are compliant. 2 of them have been corrected. One had a major cut in their bank, and the bank moved over through their buffer. But they're also working with DNR on doing some stabilization this summer, and that should be hopefully taken care of by the end of the summer. And then there's another 5 or 6 that we're just working with to either confirm or to correct the problem. And then we'll be starting our next third of the county to do the compliance monitoring on.
Okay. We have the reports first from the Steve, or the commissioner.
Yeah, thank you. So at our last county board meeting on Tuesday, we were going through a list of items that commissioners have brought up that they wanted on future agendas. And one of those issues was to have the Soil and Water Board come to the county board and give a presentation on cover crops and soil health. And while I felt like that certainly is a good idea, I reminded the other county commissioners that we can invite you, but we really can't direct you what you have to do with your own board. So you're going to receive an invitation from the county board to give specifically, I think, soil health, cover crops, what kind of work you're doing. And then another issue that Commissioner Ward and myself had put on for a future agenda item was manure management, education, benefits, concerns with manure. And I suggested that maybe that would be good to dovetail that presentation with the soil and water, soil health presentation. So in your invitation, you're probably going to get asked to speak on both subjects. So if you want to prepare yourself, I'm sure that's going to come formally from the county to you before too long. So, and then also Tuesday was our first meeting where we actually had a physical meeting at the county boardroom. Commissioners Ward and myself came. The other 3 commissioners still in Ring Central, so they were on video. But I'm hoping our planning commission meetings and so forth, I'm looking forward to some type of setting like this where we get back to a little bit of normalcy. But it'll all play out as it plays out, I guess. And of course, the future agenda items, I guess not an issue to you, but that county's dealing with this. The jail has been on our agenda both at the last meeting, and I asked to revisit the size of the jail, so that'll be coming up to one of our next meetings. There's just been so many changes with respect to what's happened in the last 6 months. We found out that when we need to, we can practically have our jail empty for COVID, and different places are trying to defund police, and we've got jails closed or potentially closing in Wabasha. There's just so much that's going on. Budgets are really disrupted, and the number keeps going up. And in our last meeting, it went up a couple $1 million more. It was originally supposed to be $17 to $18 million project. Eventually, I saw a $21 million figure. At this meeting, I saw a $25 million figure. And $25 million is going to take. You're going to see a 10% increase in your property taxes perpetually for the next 25 years to pay for that. So I mean, it's a one-time 10% increase, but it'll never go away. It'll be on there for the next 25 years to pay for that jail. So I believe we need to at least look at a smaller option and discuss that, but we'll see where that goes in the next meeting. So those are some of the issues the county board's dealing with. And if you have any questions, just and that 10% would be on top of your 6% you always get, so you can expect a 16% increase on your property tax the year the jail's built.
I mean, that's a figure that you should really stress to get out to the people, so that when will this decision be made on the jail, final decision?
It could be later this year, but the jail won't actually be built. There's an election this fall.
Right.
If a different county board member, so coincidentally, I'm running unopposed, but Greg Olson has got 2 opponents. If he were replaced, whatever decision the county board makes between now and the end of the year, the next board can just say, we have the power to overturn that, and could overturn it. So a final decision is really dependent on what Greg's election is kind of could be a referendum on the jail,
Yeah.
to a certain extent.
And he's for it?
Greg is so far just, yeah, right along, the bigger the better. There's been no resistance that I've seen.
Yeah, I'm sure the rural voter, if they hear a 16% increase in their prop, that's gonna be a devastating effect on.
Well, and it's frustrating because it's a lot like building a new school in that if you own 1,000 acres, you could charge on every one of those acres, whereas if you own a parcel in town, you could just charge one. But you both have the same amount of people, and you both would have the same amount of need for jail, but the person with a lot of land is gonna pay a lot more for that jail than the person. So the 3 city commissioners are, proudly very much for it. They understand that it's disproportionately, it's gonna be paid disproportionately by the rural constituents, so.
Make a motion to have it done by household and not property value.
Yeah, so we've been down that road, and that really requires a change in statute. So, same thing as with the, school referendums, and I know Grazkowski he's been working on that, and we've had those same conversations with him. So, but, the odds of anything like that happening before our jail is decided on, I mean, it just, all we can do is bring it, awareness to the situation and make sure those, Miller and Drazkowski and Pulowski all know what the situation is, but, it's unrealistic to think that there's gonna be relief that way.
Whoever's running against Olson, I mean, that would be a real good talking point,
I think so.
going door to door, in his area and stuff, and saying that, new jail, 16% increase in your property tax.
Mhm.
Is that something you want, or you
Because
want something else?
what this COVID thing has brought out is the difference, the way people are looking at the future of housing inmates.
Yeah.
It's, if there is if like you were saying, I think it's a 20 bed jail,
Yeah, I think 2025 would. Yeah.
if you reach that capacity, if there ever was a situation, you could easily transport those inmates to Houston County, which we are doing right now, or we
Yeah.
have done.
And then those inmates are not the ones we would keep locally would be the ones that need to come, they come in on the weekend, they need to see the judge on Monday, but once you're there you need to be there for a week, a month or more, those are the people that you would transport out, not the ones that, so you would really keep your jail functioning at a very high level, even with a smaller, number of cells. And then, so really right now, we've only got 40-some cells, and part of that is what's called the annex, which is a room a lot like this, maybe a little bit larger, and there's no bars in it, and there's just like lines on the floor, and the inmates are on one side of the line, the operators are on the other side of the line. They get to come and go every day for work release, but now they're saying in the new jail, we have to have cells for all those people. We can't have, it's a very low cost way to do it, but now they're, the discussion has been, the 3 city commissioners want a 98 bed facility, and Marcia and I have been saying, well, let's do it at 78. But now as numbers come in, they're just kind of, I see that the people that bring the numbers forward are just kind of building a 98 bed facility and saying, we're just not gonna put people in the other spots, and it's gonna cost them really estate, so you might as well build a big one. Well, then you got staffing forever too, and then you find out like Wabasha, you can't afford to run it, even after you take the building. So there's a lot of frustrations in it, but that's what, something we're dealing with. And
Yeah, I would think that what's going on here in the last would open a few eyes or change, but evidently it doesn't seem to.
well, and our county attorney brought up how swimmingly the Ring Central meetings are working. So they don't have to the judge doesn't have to have all these people before him if you just have to go in and plead not guilty, you hardly need to have that person in a jail cell coming to our courthouse to plead not guilty. That can all be done through a teleconference. So, I mean, ankle bracelets, teleconferencing, there's a lot of ways we could, and then social distancing, we don't know what's gonna happen, whether in 3 years they're gonna say, you can't have all these cells as close together. So now we've built something that doesn't comply with what we need in the future. So my position is slow down, let the dust settle. If we have to transport in full, even for 2-3 years, that would be better to figure out exactly what we need than to build something that just isn't gonna fit our needs and then be stuck with it. So we'll see where that all goes, but
Good luck.
yeah.
Okay. And, Sheila, you have something with the,
Okay, just at the county, planning and environmental services, we're all kind of rotating shifts, working remotely, coming in 2 days, working remotely for 3 days, just so we can maintain social distancing at the office. And otherwise, just trying to catch up with a lot of things that are going on. With the Whitewater, of course, our April meeting was canceled. Meeting will be held next week. One of our board members will be calling in, everybody else will be present, and we'll have tables set up like this, separated and sanitized. We have the drinking water sub-agreements on the agenda, as well as surface water assessment grant sub-agreements. And that should be it, but anyway, meeting's next Thursday, still at the Whitewater State Park.
okay, Sue?
Had a really good fall construction for getting conservation on the ground. Through our NRCS EQIP contracts and RCCP EQIP contracts, we got around 30,000 acres of grass waterways installed and built and paid. We have 3 grade states that have gotten paid. We've had 480 acres that got no-till payment, and we had some brush management on 57 acres. I have 2 grade states right now that they're being worked on, which should be finished up in the next week. So they've gotten 5 of them done, which is a good thing. A lot of EQIP contracts have been closed out. Working really hard to get the egg waste done and completed. Just so you know, Amanda and I and Dan Bailoff, we're shooting a video of it. It'll be similar to the Trout Run video that we showed, and once it's completed, we'll shoot be able to show you by that. But what we're doing is all phases of it. Actually, the pouring of the concrete, pouring of the floor, pouring of the sidewalls, and it's phased in. And we also shot him actually doing haylage, and some of the we're gonna do where he's spreading manure and how he's spreading it, and the correct way to do it. And they're gonna incorporate in the TSPs that are working with the landowner. This is all gonna be put on Minnesota YouTube page, so other producers can go and watch it and look at it and see how the process works. I think it's a good thing. I think it's gonna be very, there's a lot of action with the concrete pouring and all that. We got some really good shots. I think it's gonna be an exceptional video, and I appreciate Amanda helping out on it, and we're stressing the partnership in regards to getting Robert as a beginning farmer. additional help fund, for installing his egg waste pit and, proper manure utilization. May 5th, we had a leadership tour down here, and RCS hosted their Minnesota leadership team down here. We went to 3 landowners, went to Glen Grove, his farm operation, took a hayride out into several of his fields and demonstrated his cover crops, his strips, stressed the importance of how in southeast Minnesota we got a lot more fields to deal with versus in other parts of the state. And that comes into play when we have a new conservation planning tool. It's called Conservation Desktop. We're all in the process, or all trying to learn it, and it's interesting software package. It's been very challenging, and some southern states are opting not to even use it. So that's how well it's working. We went to Trout Run and viewed the stream bank. And the reason we went back there is Troy Daniels had been there prior to it being built, and he wanted to see the end result of it and talked about the partnership. There's very good communication or conversation between the leadership team, and that's our program people that are putting the program policies and standards and specs and stuff all into place in regards to that. Robert had some really good comments in regards to the process of getting to where we're at and building his egg waste pit. The very last page basically is what we're working on right now. And I wanted you guys to see from the team, the 3 county, because we're working in teams and on the federal side of things. The total number of applications taken for regular recoup in all 3, and you can see the black, the 46 were what we did. RCCP are the combined projects. There's 26. The red are what's actually moving forward that actually got scored, ranked, and are in the pre-approval stage right now. We're waiting for the pre-approval list to come out. As you can see, we go through a lot of, like we took 72 applications, that means 72 eligibility. They have to do the AGI and all the paperwork I'd have to say for eligibility. So we did that on 72 contracts because we have to, with our new system, we have to have it in both of the funding pools, because they may pull some of it from the regular equip, they may pull some of it from the RCCP depending on the practice, and it pulls from many pools of money, and it'll stretch the dollars farther in regards to, that's why they're doing it. Anyway, so that's kind of the reason for the importance of the local work group, because we identified resource concerns. Every resource concern you identify, there are multiple questions in our applications that we have to click buttons, and it's very time consuming, and that's the problem. That's the deadlines have been extended. They've basically been extended 2 weeks out for each of the components, just because of learning the new software. We're hoping to get, like I say, 48 funded. Not sure. There's a few that won't, because the resource concerns, if you're strictly doing just cover crop, the resource concern cover crop, if you're not doing no-till 2, you score very low. If you would agree to do no-till along with cover crop, your score shoots up 40 or 50 points. So that's kind of, there's people, I mean, it's basically your salesmanship of conservation, trying to get them to do to the next level and do multiple practices that impact conservation. So the ones that you're gonna see get funded are doing multiple things, they're not just doing one thing. Not so much, I would say, not so much in the, structure part of it. The structures, if you have the 75% upland treatment already, you're eligible, and they're just scoring them flat out, you know, based on erosion, if it's a gully erosion, is it sheet and rill erosion, is it both? The more resource concerns the planner addresses or identifies, the higher they score, and that's what's driving who gets funded and who doesn't in our programs, the federal programs. That's just in one, Team 21, that's just in one area. We had 119 in southeast Minnesota applications, plus the 66, so, you know, we had a pretty good round or whatever. So I just wanted you to see that, and that's what the importance of the local work group that's gonna be happening this afternoon. There's 58 resource conservation, or resource concerns, and we need to narrow them down to the top 5, you know, and that basically affect Winona County. And I think everybody in the room can probably agree on some of them, and some of them may be a little more controversial because of, depending on who's at the table, is how the top 5 are gonna rank out. If you have a lot of wildlife people there, you're gonna see more wildlife practices. If you have a lot of more cash croppers at the table, you're gonna see more cash crop practices, cover crop, no-till, that type of thing. And then the livestock industry will have, you know, depending on who's at the table, so. Just to update a little bit on staffing, my SOLCON, she started in 9/29 of 2020, and she is now, took a promotion. 19, sorry, and I got that wrong here, sorry for the typo. 2019 she started, she's been here almost a year, and she took a promotion and is going back to Wisconsin. So that's kind of the environment we're in.
That's not a promotion.
Is we train them and they move back or whatever, and it's, you know, and that's just our whole team. Our team is short like 5 positions right now. Some of them we haven't even had, we put them out there and they don't even get applications for. So that's a challenge I think it's a challenge for SWCDs as well as NRCS, just because of the job environment, but maybe it'll change now since COVID, and people are probably looking for jobs, will be looking for jobs, so, yeah.
So when you suggest that a person has one practice or the other, either cover crops or no-till, and if they add no-till, their score goes way up.
Yeah.
Is it one way or the other that federal considers to be more beneficial, or is it the combination of the two that?
The combination of the two for soil health.
If you did no-till, or if you did cover crops, your score would be about the same? Or would one score higher than the other?
I don't know. I don't know that answer because it's new.
I'm just asking for, you know, to see where federal stands on.
I think the more practices you do, if you can incorporate both, you're gonna score more points.
Sure, I get that.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to figure out what's
As far as
federal
better
says.
for the environment or soil health, I think both of them contribute to increasing your soil health. Is one higher than the other? I don't know that answer because we don't know which ones of our applications are gonna get funded to see what kind of games or whatever, scoring criteria they're using.
You didn't have any that was just gonna do no-till.
Yeah, we had 3,
We did.
but they scored,
so you
they
might
scored
see
low
those
because they
scores.
just did no-till. If they had cover crops, they would have scored higher.
Before
And that's
every-
like 20 points higher, and well, that makes a difference of whether you're in or out of the program. And it's dollar amounts too. Maybe they won't even get down to them because of gully erosion more, you know, they're gonna prioritize based on how much erosion's happening too. Yeah.
On the 480 acres
Yep.
no-till,
Yep.
was that just a no-till practice or were cover crops?
Nope, he's doing cover crops too.
Okay, now how much money did that go with
Around $5,000
for the total
for
project?
the total, 480 acres he got paid on. He signed up for 489, he got paid for 480 because there are some he did not plant. And in order to get no-till payment, you actually have to plant seed. So we're checking them, obviously, and he also does cover crop. In the fall, he'll do cover crop. He green planted into some of it and just sprayed rye. So, yeah.
Hmm.
So he sprays it right over the top of the corn stalks? He doesn't,
Yep, and the crop looks excellent on his particular farms. And the good thing is, he's scattered all over. He had some in Utica, some in Saratoga, some in Warren Township, and some in St. Charles Township. And no matter which tract I went to, his crops looked really good. He had really good stand, but it was an ideal year for planting this. I mean, I don't know. The farmers had a really good fall or spring to get planting done. It wasn't wet. They did good at getting things in. They got it in early. I think there's a lot of.
so when did he plant this?
He planted it in May. Well, I'm sure his corn was planted in May and his soybeans were planted later.
No, but you talk about cover crops.
Cover crops were last year's cover crops. We paid on them cover crops last fall.
Yeah, so he
And
just
then
took a airflow and went over the top of his corn stalks with rye?
Nope. He had rye planted a year ago.
Yeah.
After he had taken his soybean crop off a year ago, then he planted rye. The rye came up.
Yep.
And then it grew again this fall, or this spring, it keeps growing. And he planted directly into that, just had a roller, rolled it and planted right into it, and then took his spray and sprayed over top of it, killed the rye. The rye's all there. Nice cover, nice mat, no erosion going on, perfect. So, yeah, I was very impressed with what he has
Yeah.
done, and, yeah, it can be done.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Yep,
Is this a
it can be
3-year
done.
program?
What's this?
3 years?
Yes. Yep, he gets paid 3 years.
So,
This is the second year for him.
I guess I'm maybe feeling stupid. I didn't realize that once you planted a cover crop and you terminated it with spray, that I thought you had to plant cover crops every year. I didn't realize that they keep coming back.
No, they don't, they
Well,
don't.
Rye does, but you with rye, depending on what cover crops, there's some that don't.
Fall to
It
spring.
wasn't,
I went to see.
the rye will regrow in the spring if it hasn't been terminated.
He
So,
didn't
Yeah, but
terminate it.
you're talking 2 years down the road, he's still got cover crops.
he would have to replant it
Yeah, you'd have to replant, he'll replant it now.
in the
On
fall.
his
So he
soybean
got
now.
2 years on this cover crop, you're saying, or?
No, just one.
No.
He planted it after
Spring.
beans,
Yep.
and now that when it's
Planted
coming.
after beans, it probably got up like this.
Yeah.
And this spring it grew more, cause it was rye. And
Well,
the
does it look-
rye was probably this high, and then rolled it and planted right into it.
Just a standing
Straight
cover
up.
crop,
Standing
Steve.
cover crop, yeah,
Fall to spring.
yep, fall to spring.
Okay, well, because, the chair's question was, did he broadcast this over corn stalks, which is,
No, he didn't.
No.
He drilled it in the fall.
In the
With
corn
drill.
stalks.
in
In
corn
in
stalks.
bean
No,
residue.
bean residue.
Bean residue.
So he didn't do anything on the corn stalk ground.
Nope. Corn stalks, corn stalks, corn stalks. He just got corn on corn too. He does both.
And so is there cover crops coming through on the corn, you said, or?
No.
Okay.
But it's beans
All right.
this year, and then he'll put a cover
I thought you
crop.
said he did it on all his acres, and that's why
There's no-till was on all his acres. Cover crops are, after beans, cause corn it's too late. You know,
Yeah, that's the
It's
thing.
way too late. You can't get it.
some
growing.
years, this year, hopefully, beans will come off earlier because they got in earlier.
Yeah.
But that's a trick, you gotta get it in earlier.
Yeah. Or have a
Short,
lower number bean or whatever, or a lesser. you hit, take hit on.
An
yield.
09 instead of a
Yep.
221.
So, anyway, there's good things happening out there, I mean, with our program, so.
I was gonna talk about it here in my, but one thing I don't understand is why there's not more emphasis, I don't know what group or, for, the people that plant, cash crops during the summer, like your, cannery crops. Why those the acres aren't immediately put on cover crop or stressed, or, because around Plainview there's thousands of acres that lay idle all summer. And that'd be a perfect for cover crops. But so many of the farmers don't do anything.
That's the FSA office part of it.
No,
Well, when I was on the
Insurance.
FSA board, Winona County had a fine that if you didn't
no.
put in a cover crop of some sort, you got fined $5. Well, it costs more for the seed than that. So I made the motion and we passed it, that if you don't have cover crops in Winona County on them type of grounds, it's $20 an acre.
Right now,
Yeah, unless they changed it, so it's
because
like
I know
off the board.
there's peas on Oak Ridge, you know, right across from my driveway, there's a big field of peas.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's gonna happen. to
Yeah,
that
they
ground.
have so many days, and if they don't put a cover crop in there of some sort, it's a $20 fine per acre.
There has been in the past, some of these companies do not want anything else put on the ground,
Okay.
but I think they're starting to change and allow cover crops more and more. I'm not sure where that's at for Plainview, but I know a lot of the companies
Yeah,
are starting to
because I
allow
know
it.
you can't, you know, peas are something you can only plant once every 5
7
years or,
Yeah, 5 or 7 years.
so I don't know why that would affect that any. Okay, Andy, do you have something to bring to the meeting today?
Nope, I'm good.
Bill?
Oh,
Jerry? No. Okay, we'll have District Darrell first.
With Sue's list there, if you guys notice, we haven't brought any new contracts for cost share lately. What we're waiting for is for this pre-approval and stuff to go through for the federal, so we know who got federal cost share, who didn't, who might need ours to piggyback on, or who needs ours because they didn't get funded. So we've been holding off on new contracts for a little while, so hopefully this process, as Sue said, it keeps getting delayed a little bit here and there, but hopefully it'll go through to the point where we can start adding some of our cost share contracts on top of some of these or by themselves.
Like
So
we did with the Kreidemacher project, that
Yep.
same deal.
a lot of our projects, even the Peshon one we just approved that had other source of cost share also that we piggybacked on to get them up to the 75% or close to it. So just wanted to point that out. That's why you haven't seen new ones and why we have a big amount of cost share just sitting there right now is we have a lot of projects. It's just a matter of waiting to see which ones it's going to go to. There's still no word from the state as far as our funding for 2021. There's nothing passed in the legislature as far as cuts or anything like that, but Bowser was asked to put together scenarios. They don't know yet if the special session is gonna address it or not, so they're kind of waiting on that to determine what's gonna happen with our funding. So it's kind of a wait and see thing right now. We applied for a soil health scholarship of $500 to host an outreach and education event later this summer or early fall. We did not get it because they were looking for SWCDs that needed to strengthen their program, and they thought our program was pretty strong already. So, but we're hoping to be able to still do something this fall. I think we should be able to afford it without that scholarship since we're not doing the fair and a few of these other things that would have that we had budgeted for. So I think we should be okay, and hopefully we can do something later this summer or fall. And then the other thing I would just wanted to bring up is make sure you check your emails and clean them out. Leo, yours is full. We aren't able to send anything to you, and Josh's is getting close. So I'll send him a message too. The rest of you guys, I think we're all sitting pretty good.
Well, they send me so much junk.
Don't your secretary take care of that for you?
I need one just to delete the junk that.
Well, or you can have Andy delete them for you.
No, my wife takes care of mine, so.
Oh,
Which is handy that she's working from home yet, but
Every couple of weeks, just.
if she doesn't,
Yeah.
she's supposed to go back to work
Okay.
June 6th, July 6th. So she does do that Zoom thing, so can you do Zoom on, 2 Zooms on the same,
Not at the same time.
not the same computer, but on the same line?
If you have good, strong enough connection, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Are you on a phone line or do you use like HBC?
I got a Verizon hotspot.
Verizon. It depends on
Okay.
how much
But like I
data.
said, she's
you-
supposed to go back to the office on July 6th.
But then
Yeah,
she
like
won't
I
be
said,
there
if-
to get you on to Zoom.
Yeah.
What?
But then she won't be there to get you on.
Well,
to
Isaac
Zoom.
will probably be around.
Oh.
I got my backup.
Okay.
And like I said, if a couple of you guys aren't able to do it, we could have 2 or 3 at the most at our office.
But we have next month yet
Yep,
for that.
yeah, it's not till the 21st.
Yes.
And you got your email on the ball meeting, right?
No,
Oh, you didn't? I'll forward that to you.
okay. Because
But it-
what I did lose of yours was for the resolutions.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, just a reminder, the local work group meeting, will sing, which I don't think he's gonna be there, he's not here. And Bill,
Josh won't be here, no.
okay? Our next meeting will be here, I take it, in this room.
Well, we actually need a board motion to change it, because it was supposed to be at the fair at 10 o'clock. So we need a motion to change it back to here at 9 o'clock.
Okay,
So move.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to have our next scheduled meeting on July 9th at the current location here at the
It's-
Lewiston.
It sounds like this will work for July, but we're not sure after that. I did talk to Brian Benson, and I think I mentioned last month that he's got the place up for sale. He's pretty confident that he's got a sale. It's not done yet though. But he thought it should still be available for the July meeting,
The entire building or just this?
the entire building.
So where are you guys can continue to rent, you have contract?
We have a contract, and he said the potential buyer wants us to stay there, so we would probably have to have a new contract.
Which is gonna increase, I imagine, but,
Can we move over here?
I'm guessing this would be a lot more expensive because it's a lot bigger.
you could have you could like
Have our own rooms.
yeah. But, foreseeing down the road, we could use the Lewiston Community Center room there for a
If-
meeting.
When they open,
They're not open.
I guess I didn't talk to them for June,
By
but
August, they should be though.
I would hope so. I talked to them for May and they were not open.
It's time to get things opened up.
St. Charles has a community room too.
Yeah, go there.
Well, I would guess by, yeah, I think I've heard some meetings there.
So, anybody make a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Meeting adjourned.
Sue, I got that,